Before we start our international webinar, I look forward to your cooperation in completing this international webinar. So please find the most comfortable place in your environment because our international webinar will be start from 5 minutes, start from now. Thank you for your kindness, attention.
Ini percobaan.
Siang hari makan kelapa, rasanya enak, bikin tertawa. Kita di sini telah berjumpa untuk acara yang istimewa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, how are you? Welcome to the international webinar presented by Economic and Business Faculty, Bachelor of Management, the wonderful Green University in Batam City, Indonesia. Ibnu Sina University 2023 with the theme Strategy Improving Resource Capabilities on the Global Changes Multidimensional Crisis, Saturday, January 28, 2023. For information, this webinar is organized by Bachelor of Management Program, Economic and Business Faculty, Ibnu Sina University. And you must know that this is the very first time international webinar by Bachelor of Management. We are very honorable, Madam Dentist Andi Tenri Umu, as Chairman of YAPISTA. We are respectable, Mr. Associate Professor Dr. Haji Mustaqim Suaib, Bachelor of Economic, Master of Management, as a Rector of Ibnu Sina University. We are honorable, our Dean of Economic and Business Faculty, Ibnu Sina University, Mr. Dr. Sabri, Bachelor of Economic, Master of Management. And we are very honorable, Madam Septa Diana Nabela, Bachelor of Economic, Master of Management, as Chairman of Bachelor of Management, Economic and Business Faculty, Ibnu Sina University. We are honorable a speaker from Australia, Welly Rauda, consultant and visiting fellow Business Continuity Management, Human Resource Management and Strategic Marketing from Australia. We are respectable, a speaker from Bingöl University of Turkey, Mr. Associate Professor Imran Aslan. We are respectable, a speaker from Ibnu Sina University, Indonesia, Mr. Dr. Henry Herman, Bachelor of Economic, Master of Science. Ladies and gentlemen, and all of the happiness audience, first of all, let's say thanks to God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has been giving us healthy and mercy so we can attend and participate in this event without any obstacles. Secondly, my peace be upon our Prophet. Don't forget our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness to the brightness era by saying, Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. On this special event, we have several agendas. So allow me to read several agenda this afternoon. The first agenda is opening. The second is singing national anthem of Indonesia, Australia, and Turkey. Will be continue of Mars Ibnu Sina. Up next, reading prayer. The fourth is opening speeches. The fifth is webinar are hosted by a moderator and also closing. Dear all of the happiness participants, the first agenda is opening. Let's start this agenda by reading Basmalah together. 1, 2, 3. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Up next, the national anthem starting from Indonesia, Australia, Turkey, and will be continued Mars Ibnu Sina. All of the happiness participant is in perfect manner.
seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. If joined God's strength, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
We move to the next agenda is speeches. The first speech is come from our Dean of Economic and Business Faculty, Mr. Dr. Sabri, Bachelor of Economic, Master of Science. Mr. Sabri, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yang terhormat Yayasan Pendidikan Eksklusina Batam, Mrs. Andi Tenri Umo. Yang terhormat Rektor Universitas Eksklusina, Asok Profesor Dr. Haji Mustaqim Suaid, SE MM CTT. Yang terhormat Dr. Henry Herman, SE MSc CTT. Keynote speak from Imran Aslan, keynote speak from Bingöl University, Turkey. Yang terhormat Mr. Willy Rauda, keynote speak from consultant and teaching fellow, business continuity management, human resource management, and strategi marketing Australia. Para peserta dan panitia penyelenggara yang berbahagia. Pertama-tama, marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa, berkat rahmat dan inayahnya juga, sehingga kita dapat berkumpul bersama-sama di webinar ini dengan topik strategi employment resource capability on global change in multidimensional crisis yang dilaksanakan oleh Sarjana Manajemen tetap kita curah limpahkan kepada junjungan Nabi besar Muhammad SAW yang telah membawa kita keluar dari zaman kegelapan menuju zaman yang terang benerang saat ini. Semoga kita semua mendapatkan syafaatnya pada yaumil kiamat kelak. Amin. Kedua, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada MC karena telah memberi saya kehormatan besar untuk menyampaikan pidato. Selamat datang di kesempatan yang baik ini. Sebelum kita mulai seminar ini, kepada Anda semua yang telah berkomitmen dengan tulus untuk mensukseskan acara ini. Acara ini tidak kami menyambut semua peserta seminar yang hadir. Seminar hari ini mengambil topik tentang strategi peningkatan kemampuan sumber daya pada perubahan global, pada krisis multidimensi, dan seminar ini diperuntukkan bagi mahasiswa sarjana manajemen yang memang menjadi salah satu syarat untuk ujian skripsi nanti. Dalam seminar ini, kita akan membahas seberapa besar dampak strategi peningkatan kemampuan sumber daya pada perubahan global, pada krisis multidimensi terhadap mahasiswa, tidak hanya dari dalam negeri tetapi juga dari beberapa negara lain seperti Turki dan Australia. Selain itu, kita juga akan belajar dari negara-negara tersebut bagaimana mengatasi tantangan strategi peningkatan kemampuan sumber daya dari keynote speak yang luar biasa. Dengan menyadari pertemuan semacam ini, saya yakin Anda akan mendapat banyak keuntungan. Anda akan meningkatkan bahasa Inggris Anda dan memperluas persahabatan Anda. Silakan berpartisipasi dalam kesempatan emas ini, dan saya harapkan partisipasi Anda akan membawa beberapa manfaat. Mungkin hanya itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Hari ini mohon maaf jika masih ada banyak kekurangan dalam penyelenggaraan acara ini. Semoga webinar internasional ini dapat membawa banyak manfaat bagi kita semua. Sekali lagi selamat mengikuti seminar ini untuk semua peserta. Sekian, billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Sabi, for the speech and also for your attention for International Webinar Economic and Business Faculty. Up next, the speeches come from our Rector of Ibnu Sina University. And officially opening this international webinar, let's invite it, Mr. Dr. Haji Mustaqim Suaib, Bachelor of Economic, Master of Management. Dr. Mustaqim, time is yours.
Oke, baik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah wa syukurillah, la haula wa la quwata illa billah. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Para peserta webinar internasional para pemateri, Bapak Dekan, dan tadi ada Ketua Yayasan Pendidikan di sini yang saya hormati. Syukur alhamdulillah pada siang yang berbahagia ini kita melanjutkan webinar internasional yang ditaja oleh program studi manajemen S1 Universitas Mesina, dan tadi pagi sudah selesai pelaksanaan webinar internasional juga di kampus kita yang ditaja oleh program studi Magister Manajemen Universitas Mesina. Adik-adik mahasiswa dan para pemateri, Mr. Aslan, Mr. Willy dari Australia dan dari Turki, yang saya sangat banggakan dan saya hormati, bersedia menjadi keynote speaker di acara webinar ini dalam acara penyampaian materi tentang SDM atau Human Resource, yang mana memang student kami, mahasiswa kami adalah mahasiswa yang bergerak di bidang manajemen, terutama manajemen sumber daya manusia dan manajemen marketing pemasaran. Bapak Ibu yang berbahagia, webinar ini apalagi internasional sangat bermanfaat sekali bagi adik-adik mahasiswa, bagi student. Apalagi dalam hal ini akan menghadapi tugas akhir atau skripsi. Nah, hal itu menjadi kewajiban bagi mahasiswa untuk diikutinya. Begitu juga tadi di pasca sarjana, di Magister Manajemen juga diwajibkan untuk mengikuti webinar internasional. Dan ini setiap tahun, setiap semester kita adakan dan diwajibkan. Oleh karena itu, adik-adik mahasiswa ikuti hal ini karena ini sangat bermanfaat sekali. Pembicaranya bukan orang biasa, tapi orang luar biasa. Dunia internasional akan berbicara di webinar ini. Nah, mudah-mudahan hal ini berjalan dengan baik, lancar, sukses, dan semua kita mendapatkan manfaat dari kegiatan ini. Saya kira itu yang bisa saya sampaikan dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, webinar internasional yang ditaja oleh program studi S1 Manajemen Fakultas Ilmu Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas Mesina. Dengan ini saya nyatakan dibuka. Billahi fi sabilil haq. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Associate Professor Dr. Haji Mustaqim Suaib, Bachelor of Economic, Master of Management, for your speech and also for your attention. Ladies and gentlemen, up next, reading the prayer. The prayer will be delivered by Dr. Andika. Dr. Andika, time is yours.
Let us pray for a moment to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Holy and our prayer will be answered by Allah. Let's pray according to our respective religion and belief. And I will lead the prayer in the Islamic way. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi rasulillahi ajma'in. Allahumma inna nas'aluka salamatan fid din wa afiatan fil jasad wa syadatan fil ilmi wa barakatan fi rizki wa taubatan qablal maut wa rahmatan indal maut wa maghfiratan ba'dal maut. Allahumma min alaina fi syakaratil maut wa najata minan nar afwa indal hisab. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. We pray to you, Allah. Today we are holding an international webinar for Bachelor of Management at the Faculty of Economic and Business, Ibnu Sina University. May Allah provide conventions and smoothness in this activity and be given useful knowledge to all of us. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Andika. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to our main program, webinar session. This webinar will be led our moderator, Ms. Sepriza Herawati. Hello, Sepriza, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm fantastic because you know that this is my very first time I joined international webinar. So, Ms. Sepriza, are you ready?
Of course, I'm ready.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our gorgeous moderator, Sepriza Herawati.
Thanks, dear. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sepriza Herawati. I sit here to be a moderator today. Strike two. The first keynote speaker is come from Australia, Wali Rauda. Wali Rauda is an Australian with over 30 years of experience with global MNCs in the following industries: banking and financial service and insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Wali Rauda. Wali Rauda, time is yours.
Time. Trust me, once you've done it 200 or 300 times, you'll get very used to it. You're doing a great job. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm an Australian. My name is Wally. I have been in HR and business continuity management and strategic marketing for nearly 30 years. I have more than 28 years lecturing experience as an academic. It's my great pleasure to be with you here today, and I look forward to talking to you about the strategy in improving resource capabilities for global changes in a multi-dimensional crisis, or as we call it, a multi-dimensional society, if we could put it in that term, because truly strategy change and improving capabilities is not only a multi-dimensional crisis, but it's also a global crisis, and it affects companies and people all over the world. What I'd like to do is share my screen, if I may. Could the host allow me to share my screen, please? Okay, would you like me to wait for the other students to join again? We only have 122 participants. Earlier, we had 235. So, ma'am, the moderator, would you like me to wait or would you like me to start?
Start.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, let me share.
Wali Roda bilang tadi ada 272 sekarang baru 100.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is, let me just get my screen going, please. We're going to talk about the strategy you require to reinforce change in global capabilities, whether it's a company, a business, or a multinational organization. And this is a subject that many companies find troublesome. As COVID-19 struck the world in late 2019 and took until 2022 to die, or go away, as we call it, companies were not prepared for this. They did not have capabilities on dealing with crisis. COVID-19 is a crisis. Believe it or not, millions of people died. There were shallow graves being dug in the ground in the United States and in India. People died by the millions and were buried in shallow graves. This is a multi-dimensional global crisis and requires companies to be ready for global change. Let us talk about global change and what causes a crisis. For all of you here, you're all bachelor students, you're all doing your first university degree. And as you'll learn as you go through your 2 or 3 years of bachelor studies, that any event or events that cause major disturbance, like the one that we just had, is a technical crisis. We just experienced one a few minutes ago with our beautiful new moderator, the young lady, and in her first 30 seconds, she experienced a technical crisis. Okay, so crisis like this disturbs business. It disturbs the norm. It disturbs the way people operate. Crisis can happen anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter. Typically occurs suddenly and poses intense difficulty or danger for the business, usually in a situation where time is short and decisions have to be taken very quickly. As just happened, the internet failed and your IT department disconnected the connection and restarted it. So they had to make a very quick decision. This is a simple crisis and a perfect example to what we're going to address today. Let's talk about crisis, whether it's intentional or unintentional, and whether it's multidimensional, global, or just national. Crisis is unavoidable, making it imperative that your business, or your company, your organization is ready for quick response. Nobody plans their mistakes. No one plans to have a seminar like this interrupted by internet. No one plans to have a company go out of business due to the COVID-19 crisis. These crises just happen, and they often happen at the worst possible time. While no one wants to anticipate failure, it is really important and it's critical that you are able to plan on how to deal with failure. And in order to do that, you must have the right strategy in place and understand all the different failures that can take place in the important parts of your business or the important functions of a business organization, should they ever occur. Now, let's ask ourselves, what are the important functions in any business organization? You need a finance department with money to run the business and pay salaries. You need an operations department to handle operations. You probably need a production line, a manufacturing department. You probably need an IT department. All these are functional areas in any organization. All right, so all of these areas have to be dealt with, and all of them have to have capability plans or strategy in place in the event of crisis. Crisis is not like your normal day operation. Crisis usually happens when it's least expected. No one plans for crisis. The majority of companies around the world, somewhere between 68 and 70% of companies around the globe, globally, were not ready for the COVID-19 pandemic, the COVID-19 crisis that shut down the world. Airlines all over the world were crippled. Thousands of aircraft were parked in the desert of Australia and California in the United States. Multi-billions of dollars of aircraft, A380s and Boeings and Airbus, were parked for 2 years with their engines switched off. No one was prepared for this crisis. No one had a management plan or a crisis management plan in place. But all this was unavoidable. It was beyond their control. No one chose to participate in this crisis. This crisis was brought to the world. Some people say that it was brought on by Chinese scientists or Chinese doctors. Some people say that the US military had part of it. No one knows who brought on COVID-19. No one knows who brought SARS many years ago to the world. No one knows who brought, bird influenza to the world. All we know is that all of these things, whether natural or unnatural man-made disasters, have recently called crisis to the world. The war between Russia and the Ukraine has brought economic crisis to that part of the world. The Russian economy has gone from being one of the most fruitful economies in the world to a zero economy. They don't even have food on the shelves. They are not able to and don't have the ability to transact currency with any other part of the world except for China, I believe. So all of these are examples of crisis. Let me give you a simple example, ladies and gentlemen. All of you are young students studying for your bachelor's degrees. Let me ask all the young guys here, you experience a crisis at least once during your university life. Every time you break up with a new girlfriend, it's probably a crisis because the girl dumps you. Or for the girls, it's probably a crisis every time they dump a new boyfriend. It's a simple example of crisis, okay? And let's not simplify it because truly it's an example of a crisis. Let's go on. All right, so let's talk about what it takes to identify a crisis. How do we identify a business crisis? First, the problem must pose an imminent threat to the organization. All right, well, let me put it to you this way. Let's go back to the simple scenario I just gave you. Boyfriend drops girlfriend or girlfriend dumps boyfriend, crisis for boyfriend, because now he's too embarrassed to join his mates for dinner because he's the only one without a girlfriend. For him, it may be an imminent threat to his reputation or to him being, the playboy that he is. That's one simple example. The next identifying element is the situation must involve an element of surprise or shock. Finally, due to the severity of the problem as well as its unexpected nature, the situation will place pressure on the business to make timely and effective decisions, knowing that the elements that make up business crisis can be instrumental in identifying these problems before it's too late. So, for example, today we suffered an internet connection. So you had to have an IT department who was able to respond functionally very quickly to resolve that crisis. So in simple terms, first, a crisis must pose a problem or a threat. 2, it must involve an element of surprise. And 3, the severity of the problem must be recognized or must be able to resolve the unexpected difficulty or roadblock that problem brings. Okay, so we all understand what a crisis is. We understand what you need to do to identify a crisis. Now, you might be asking yourselves, what sort of crisis around the world can be considered multidimensional, let alone global? Let's take Google. Google, in the last few days, announced the sacking or retrenchment of thousands of people as a result of a financial crisis that the company is suffering due to whether you consider it mismanagement by Google over the years, by overhiring too many people. And they finally realized that they had thousands of employees that had been earning a salary for the last 2 years and doing very little work at home, because no matter whether you have 15,000 people working for Google or 2,000 people working for Google, Google as we know it is still operating. Google has never shut down. No time during the COVID-19 crisis did Google shut down its engines. So no matter how many people Google have, the engine will still run. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, no matter how many people they have, whether they have 25,000 or 5,000, the technological machinery that they have in place will still continue to operate regardless of the human crisis or the financial crisis. However, they have finally realized that they have a financial dilemma, and that if they don't act now to fix that crisis, they may no longer be a Google very soon because they may run out of money. All right, so Google has recently, in the last few days, announced a major crisis that it has to retrench people in order to be able to sustain its operation. So let's talk about different types of crisis. The first one is financial. The second one could be people or personnel. The third one is organizational crisis. Now, when we talk about personnel, organizational crisis, they all involve human resource crisis, technological crisis, and natural crisis. So if we talk about COVID-19, COVID-19 is a natural crisis. Okay, it's a natural crisis. No one asked for it to happen. No one can be blamed for it because no one wants to take responsibility. So right now, all we can do is assume that was a God-made crisis, or it came from God, or it dropped down from the sky. It was a natural crisis. Let's talk about the most severe form of crisis that can be caused to any business or organization, whether locally, multidimensionally, or internationally. And financial crisis doesn't only usually affect one part of the business, but it's a multidimensional crisis because all elements of that business will be affected. Salaries will be affected, operations will be affected, production will be affected. It's multidimensional. What is a financial crisis? A financial crisis occurs when a business loses value in its assets and the company or the business can't afford to pay its debt. Typically, this happens by a significant drop in demand for the product or service. Facebook, for example, is losing popularity. The number of people that use Facebook has decreased over the years. So Facebook is no longer able to sustain the number of staff that it had 5 or 10 years ago prior to COVID-19, because it realized during COVID-19 that it doesn't need the 25,000 staff it had, that without them, while they were working from home, Facebook was still functional. It didn't close down. So they've realized that they have a financial crisis. And if they don't take action to fix it, the company will have to eventually cease as it's in its current form. All right, let's go to the other element. In these cases, the company must move funds around to cover immediate short-term costs and pay bills. Then they'll need to reanalyze their revenue sources to look for new ways to generate long-term income, as well as increase their profit margins. All companies, all businesses function in order to make revenue, to generate profit. Every business does that. Even the local cinema in Batam does that. Even the local shop or supermarket in Batam can only survive providing it generates a revenue to pay its costs and pay for supplies and goods. So whether you call it multidimensional or whether you call it local or whether you call it global, a financial crisis doesn't only affect one company, it can affect the whole industry. And if the company's big enough like Google and they lay off 10 or 12,000 people across the world, they are going to put 12,000 people in the unemployment queues. That can affect economies all over the world. Can you imagine if tomorrow 12,000 people in Indonesia were fired from Garuda Indonesia? What would happen to the number of unemployed people in Indonesia if Garuda Indonesia suddenly fired 12 or 15,000 people because they realized that they had a financial crisis on board? Okay? It's not only tech companies that are doing this. The banks have done it. Yesterday, airlines have also announced, some airlines, that they may have to retrench thousands of workers, because even though that the air travel business has picked up, the amount of revenue they can generate based on the number of aircraft that they have in operation is now limited, and it's going to take time for them to bring all their aircraft back into operation, unless they are a very rich airline like the likes of Emirates, Singapore Airlines, who have fleets of 180 to 200 aircraft. But for smaller airlines, They are bleeding financially, and it's a matter of time before they declare to their clients and to the world, we have a financial crisis. Let's look at an example of an airline that got into financial crisis. Everybody here knows Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines is an American company. It's one of America's better known airlines. It filed for bankruptcy in 2005. Why? Because customer demand had decreased due to the September 11 attacks on the United States. Does everybody remember September 11 when aircraft brought havoc to the United States with terror? So as a result of that, Delta lost business and had to file for bankruptcy protection. All right. So into the mid-2000s, the company overcame bankruptcy in 2007 and invested its workforce to improve customer experience. In 2020, Delta created a profit-sharing program and paid out nearly $1.6 billion in profit shares to its employees. So what did Delta go through? It went through a crisis. What was that crisis? It was a crisis that no one had the peace of mind to travel. Passengers were scared to travel across the United States or out of the United States because of the September 11 attack in the United States, where aircraft went into buildings due to terrorism. So as a result of that, it took Delta nearly 2 to 3 years to gain its customers' confidence back. And when it did, how did it actually bring back the level of confidence in their employees to work as hard and have a sense of security that the company is not going to actually have a human resource crisis by having to fire people? They actually implemented a profit sharing scheme to motivate the people that work for them to become productive. Because as with any person, if your company goes into financial crisis or bankruptcy, all the people that work for that company don't have a sense of confidence or security because they're worried they're going to lose their job. So financial crisis has very serious implications, not only on a company itself, but on the airline industry, if it's Delta Airlines, and on all the different elements of that company, whether it's the aircraft engineering team, whether it's the flight attendants, whether it's the catering department. This crisis affects multi-dimensions, all the facets that run the company. Let's look at another example. All of you here are young, and I'm sure you go to fitness centers and gymnasiums. Let me give you an example of Gold's Gym. Gold's Gym still is actually now, one of America's most popular fitness centers. In the wake of all the closures and movement restrictions in 2020, thanks to COVID-19, fitness giant Gold's Gym filed for bankruptcy and permanently closed 30 of its gyms around the United States. The only way they were able to recover the financial crisis was after a bigger company with much more financial liquidity bought out the company and acquired Gold's Gyms. But again, what caused the financial crisis for Gold's Gym? It was not something they expected. The fact is, it was the movement restrictions in the United States and movement restrictions all over the world, thanks to the COVID-19 virus. People weren't allowed to go out and go to the gym. So how could they generate revenue and keep their doors open? It was unexpected. The company did not have enough financial reserves to deal with such a crisis because they never expected that crisis to hit. Was the crisis local? No, it was multidimensional because not only one gym closed, more than one gym closed, and the whole exercise industry or the gym industry in the United States suffered. Not only Gold's Gym. The reason Gold's Gym stands out because it's one of the biggest companies in that industry in the United States. The COVID-19 pandemic sent shockwaves throughout the world economy. Now, don't tell me that in Indonesia, you didn't hear of COVID-19. More companies in Indonesia suffered financial crisis and ended up closing down than any other parts of Asia. Okay, in Singapore, thousands of companies closed. In Indonesia, tens of thousands of small businesses closed because of the crisis. The crisis led to a dramatic increase in inequality within and across countries. For example, some countries could afford to buy vaccinations. Other countries couldn't. They had to rely on vaccine companies to give them a discount to buy vaccine, or waited until they could buy it at a cheaper price. What was the outcome of the crisis? People died because they weren't getting vaccines quickly enough. So this was a natural crisis. This was not planned. Financial crisis happened as a result of a natural crisis, which was COVID-19. So crisis can be multidimensional. It can start with something like COVID-19, and that could trigger a financial crisis. It can trigger a human crisis that they lose staff and can't replace them. Crisis is a result of some inevitable, unexpected issue which has severe impact on that operation or that industry. In 2020, 6% of companies canceled, 9.7% postponed, 8.2% decreased, and 1.5% increased some of their budgeted capital expenditures during the COVID coronavirus pandemic. Coronavirus or COVID virus, let's talk, both of them were severe. Corona was very severe, but then COVID brought on more severity. And the funny thing is, COVID came in 2019 and Corona followed. So they were both, whether you call them linked or not linked, they were both natural crises. They caused natural crisis. And it resulted in companies having to delay or postpone their expenditure to avoid financial crisis. If they hadn't delayed or reduced the financial expenditure, they would have ended up in a financial crisis and probably had to seek bankruptcy protection. And that would not have only infected them or hurt them, but it would have affected everybody in that industry and the country's economy in which they operate. A total of 1.7% of companies introduced new unbudgeted capital expenditure. Companies did not plan on spending millions of dollars in vaccinations or in building e-commerce websites. Stores all over the world, department stores had brick and mortar stores. They had to close their doors because people couldn't go out during the COVID pandemic. They were locked down in their homes. So they had to buy goods online. So department stores had to spend millions of dollars building websites and having online stores. Otherwise, they would have suffered financial crisis and closed their doors permanently. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, crisis can create more crisis. It is a chain effect, a chain reaction. As COVID-19 spread across the world with unprecedented speed, consumer and investment behavior dramatically shifted. So even if people had the confidence to invest in industry or companies, once COVID-19 spread at dramatic rates, people and their appetite to invest or spend money changed, which meant that many companies around the world were now open to financial crisis because they were likely to lose their business, run out of money, or basically have to shut down due to no customers. In the United States and globally, when COVID-19 hit in the airline industry and in big industries, manufacturing and shipping, it also had a chain effect because people all over the world started selling the stock, the shares they had bought in these companies. So the value of these companies plummeted. The Dow Jones, the Dow saw its biggest one-day drop since Black Monday in 1987, and the S&P 500 dropped over 20% from its peak in just 16 days once COVID-19 had closed down countries all over the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no longer just a natural crisis. It's a very good example of a natural crisis which became a multi-dimensional crisis affecting not only airlines, retail, shipping, price of oil. It was multifaceted and multi-dimensional. Let's talk about a second crisis or second type of crisis. A second type of crisis is what we call a personnel crisis. What is a personnel crisis? It's a people-related crisis, and it occurs when somebody in the company or somebody who's associated with that company is involved in unethical or illegal misconduct. Whether the misconduct is done at work, whether it's misconduct in their personal life, these situations can result in a serious backlash against the company by its customers. Since the business or the company organization employed this person or supported this individual by paying them salary, its lack of judgment is reflected onto the company's reputation. For example, if you work for Google and one day you decided to launch a porn site on Google without them knowing and hide it behind the Google network, and people expose you, that would reflect on Google because Google would be accused of allowing you to do it, even though Google didn't know about it. Let's look at an example of personal crisis or personnel crisis. Tyson Foods, one of the world's largest food distribution companies. These people were struck by the pandemic, okay, which put a strain on just about everything, including their food supply chain. Workers at Tyson Food pork plant in Iowa in the United States found themselves working longer hours to keep up with the demand and in close quarters. That means they couldn't leave. They had to work long shifts and stay within the complex, because if they went home, they couldn't come back to work the next day. What effect did that have on Tyson Foods, a food manufacturing and distribution company? They were unable to meet demand from the consumer because they did not have enough personnel to run the business. Okay, not only that, people that were working within the company caught COVID-19. And once they caught it, the disease spread very quickly to all the other people in the factory because they were all working under one roof. Making matters worse, supervisors at their factory in Waterloo in Iowa were allegedly involved in a betting pool guessing how many workers would get sick from the virus. That means instead of hoping that no one gets sick, some managers who were very stupid were betting that tomorrow 20 people will get sick, tomorrow 50 people will get sick. They thought that this was a joke. But once customers across the world heard that you have people, managers at this food company betting on people dying from COVID-19, that caused a backlash for Tyson Foods. Not only did this come across as cruel, callous, ignorant, stupid, but the company is now facing legal suits and repercussions as the families and the parents of those people who died from COVID-19 whilst working at Tyson Food are now suing the company for damages. Why? Because managers in that company thought it was funny when people died. They were betting that 10 or 20 people or 10 or 20 of their colleagues would die from COVID-19. You don't bet on when somebody's gonna die. And you obviously don't tell your customers that you're hoping that 10 or 15 people die or catch COVID-19 so you can win the bet. So what happened to Tyson Foods as a result? They suffered a reputation with their customers, and now they're being sued. So not only do they have a personnel crisis, but they may have a financial crisis when they have to pay millions of dollars in compensation to the families because of one manager or two managers' stupidity by doing that and causing harm to the company's brand and reputation. Let's look at another big player that you all know, a company by the name of WeWork that has service offices in Indonesia and all over the world. One of the most compelling examples of a personnel crisis is in 2019, during COVID-19, the WeWork scandal became known all over the world. The CEO of WeWork stepped down after overhauling the company by lying about how much the company was worth. He actually lied about how much the company was worth in order to be able to get money to keep the company open. Now, once the banks and the investors found out, they were very angry because they'd been lied to. And Adam Newman, as a result, was told to either step down or be fired as CEO. What happened to WeWork's reputation after that is they went into crisis because the people that had given them money or financed their operation were now skeptical, and the tap of money or the reserve of money had now been closed. So WeWork needed to work its way out of financial crisis. They were lucky because during the financial crisis that they faced in 2019, COVID-19 meant that a lot of people needed service office space because they could not work in large offices. They were too crowded and they risked catching an infection. So a lot of people wanted to go to a service office space and work temporarily during the COVID-19 crisis. So that helped WeWork to some limit or to some extent to survive financially, but it wasn't enough. Their CEO caused them irreparable damage to their reputation. As a result, they suffered financial crisis and are now trying to work their way out of it. And to date, WeWork has never got back its loyalty or customer base or profit that they shared previous to that in the service office business. Let's talk about one more example of personnel crisis, CrossFit. Okay, during the height of the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement, CrossFit's owner, CrossFit is an American company, Greg Glassman said in a meeting that he didn't mourn George Floyd's death. You've all heard the news recently that policemen in the United States are being tried for murder over the way they killed a suspect by the name of George Floyd. But this CEO went to the press and was making fun, saying that he didn't want to care about how George Floyd died. He didn't care about whether the police killed him intentionally or unintentionally. As a result of that, all right, the company lost its customers. But not only did he say that, he also alleged that racism and police brutality were not systemic problems. After issuing an apology, he stepped down. All right, so what he said is, you know, I don't care whether this guy was killed by the police. I don't care if he dies. I don't care whether the police were brutal or acted illegally. All right. He then tried to brush it off and saying that it's not a problem, it's okay. As a result of that, they lost customers. He had to resign. Until now, CrossFit is still trying to get back Black customers who left after he made that remark over over the death of George Floyd. Does everybody understand what I'm saying by a personnel crisis? So one person's mistake within an organization can bring on a crisis. It can be a financial crisis. It can be a publicity crisis. It can be a public relations crisis. But more importantly, the biggest crisis can be losing your customers and losing your revenue base. Let's talk about how does HR or human resources play a role in personnel crisis. Let's talk about that and see if we can address that. All right, so the first part is signal detection, identification and response. But before we start that, what I'd like to do is point out the top of the chart And then I'd like to go down to the bottom of the chart and bring the relevance together, if I may. Just bear with me. So let's start from here. Selection or signal detection. Identification and response to the preliminary signs of probable crisis and consequently taking action, right? So this is when HR notices that a crisis is looming. Now, the company itself might be suffering, like the guy that made the racist remark over the police. They started losing customers. HR had to then decide how many staff they need, whether they cut down staff or keep them. So HR, human resources, went into what we call crisis preparation. Okay, then HR had to decide, should they terminate Black people because business had slowed down, or would that cause more bad image because they were terminating only Black people? So they had to develop a crisis containment plan by either keeping all their staff till they overcame the crisis or closing them down and firing everyone. Once they've worked out what the impact of the crisis was, once they actually decided how many different divisions of the company were affected, they had to set a process in place to recovery. All right? Then HR had to start saying, let's learn from our mistakes. All right? Don't blame the other department, but simply learn from the mistakes so we can review what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. And as a result of that, they redesigned processes. They put policies in place to stop people from expressing their personal opinion to the media. Because if their CEO hadn't told the media that he doesn't care about the Black man that was killed by the police through brutality, the company would not have been in a personnel crisis. If Google had better managed its finances and not employed so many people, then they wouldn't be firing 12,000 people because they have a financial crisis to keep the company employed, or keep people employed and the company in business. Because eventually, if they don't retrench 12,000 people, there's a good chance that they will eventually face a financial crisis. Let's go on. We've gone from what we call personnel crisis. We've covered financial crisis. Now we're going to look at another type of crisis, and this is called an organizational crisis. Organizational crises are situations where the company has significantly wronged its customers or consumers or employees. For example, you have done something wrong, overcharged your customers, underpaid your employees their overtime, or treated them in the wrong way. And what happens is that becomes public news. As a result, your employees leave the company. As a result, your customers go somewhere else and complain about the dishonesty or the overcharging that your company has brought to them. And what happens as a result of that is you lose customers, or if you lose employees, you will not be able to service your customers due to a shortage of manpower. All right, let me give you an example of organizational crisis. Let's say that a company, rather than creating mutually beneficial relationships with their customers, all right, they use their customers as a means of benefiting the company or abuse their employees to save face. For example, a company overcharges its customers intentionally and then says it's not their fault, one of their managers made the wrong decision. All right, why do they do that? Because the company is trying to hide from the truth and save face. And this, when it becomes public, can become an organizational crisis, because the organization, as a result, will lose business. And as a result of that, they will eventually find a financial crisis looming, because as their number of customers drop, their revenue will drop and lead to a financial crisis. As a result of the financial crisis, people will have to be retrenched or fired. That will bring a human resource crisis or a manpower crisis. It could also bring a personnel crisis, because the person who lied to the customers to start with will also have to be fired or step down because of the bad reputation and the impact of that lie to their customers. So as you can see, it could start as an organizational crisis. It can grow to become a financial crisis, a personnel crisis, a human resource crisis. It is a multi-dimensional effect. It's an ongoing effect. One element can affect the other. Let's talk about 3 different types of organizational crisis that can strike. Okay, one can be crisis of deception, where a company crisis occurs when a company knowingly lies about public-facing product information or tampers with public-facing data, overcharges and lies, or defrauds their customers. Defraud is the same as deceive. Crisis management misconduct. This type of crisis is as a result of management willingly and knowingly engaging in illegal activities. For example, if you manufacture halal food and because you're lying about your halal when you're not halal, that could be crisis management and misconduct because you're breaking the code of halal food in Indonesia, if it was in Indonesia, and you're also deceiving your customer by telling them that's halal when it's not halal. So all of these, one is deception or fraud, the other one is misconduct in the eyes of the law. The last one is crisis of skewed management values. This type of crisis results when senior leadership emphasizes short-term financial gains over social responsibility and neglects the interests of its customers or its employees. For example, let's take Google. For years, Google has employed more and more people. They have, probably 50 to 70,000 people working for them worldwide. It may be that skewed management values because they thought they really needed these people. They employed so many people that eventually they realized that they didn't need these people. Now, what have they done? These people have got mortgages. They bought houses because they thought they had a long-term job with Google. And Google has proven that they had made a mistake because now they're terminating 12,000 plus people as a result, because they finally admitted that during the COVID-19 crisis, they realized they did not need these people. So, skewed management. And that leads from a financial crisis to a personnel crisis, because once you start firing people, other people become unhappy, they feel insecure, they feel less motivated. So it's a chain reaction. Let's look at Google. In late 2020, Google faced allegations of spying on employees and discouraging unionized organizations. The firm, Google, illegally surveilled employees' discussions when they aired their workplace grievances. What does that mean? Google recorded their people talking without telling them. They spied on their own employees to find out which employees were talking badly about the company. Google made a public statement when this was found out and became public to the Verge newspaper, or Verge is a newspaper or type of social media, saying that we're proud of our culture and are committed to defending it against attempts by individuals to deliberately undermine it. So what they're saying is we're proud of our reputation and it's not wrong to spy on them. We're trying to protect our company's reputation. Such actions are a serious violation of our policies and unacceptable breach of trusted responsibility, and we will be defending our position. So what they said technically is, we admit that we were spying, but we were spying because we wanted to protect our proud organization. But now that we found out the spying, which they already knew, because they just didn't want to admit that they knew, they're going to try to fix it. So Google had deceived its customers and faced allegations of spying, which they denied, but there was nothing for them to deny because management knew they were spying. They were trying to protect their culture. Once people in public found out about it, Google took the defensive. So what happened to Google? they went into a crisis of skewed management because they were not prepared to take responsibility. They were blaming the people that were spreading bad rumors instead of just admitting we spied, it was wrong. They were trying to defend the fact that they spied. Let's look at another big brand in the US. This brand was famous for lending money for people to buy houses, Wells Fargo. To meet sales quota, Wells Fargo's employees automatically and illegally opened millions of fake customer accounts without the customer's consent. Wells Fargo was a bank, a financial institution, and a money lender. Employees falsified signatures and created false fake bank records and accounts, which resulted in billions of dollars in revenue. So by creating these false accounts, money went into them as if the customer was borrowing money, but the customers never borrowed anything. They were fake accounts. In 2020, Wells Fargo paid a settlement of $3 billion to cover the corporate penalties incurred once the law found out of all these false accounts. Now, do you believe that Wells Fargo didn't know about it? They knew about it. But the reason they were doing this is because it was beneficial for them and profitable for them until they were uncovered. And probably after they were uncovered, and even though they paid $3 billion in settlement, in penalties, they probably made a lot more than that and walked away with a profit. All right, so we've looked at financial crisis, we've looked at personnel crisis, we've looked at organizational crisis, and we've discussed how all of these have a chain reaction, including human resource crisis, people crisis. Let's look at the next one, and that's technological crisis. A technological crisis, ladies and gentlemen, arises as a result of a failure in technology, similar to the one we experienced earlier on today with the internet breaking or failure internet connectivity. Problems in the overall system lead to technological crisis, breakdown of machines or network, corrupted software can give rise to technological crisis. What happened here earlier today, the seminar stopped for nearly 10 minutes because of technological crisis, which was not expected and unforeseen. All right, the technological crisis could have been caused by error in programming or by human application of science and technology. It could be that the internet network that you're using is not strong enough to cater for heavy rain and heavy weather, and as a result, you suffered a disconnection. So basically, it's not the fact that you're using the internet, it's probably that your internet provider does not provide you a strong enough connection that can handle the weather. Technological crisis. Technological crisis can include hazardous material incidents and nuclear power plant failures. How does this happen? Usually, if a nuclear plant or a power plant has a failure and no warning precedes that failure, or like today, your internet provider doesn't tell you that the internet is gonna fail, these are technological failures. In many cases, victims may not know that they had been affected until many years later. For example, if there's a nuclear leakage from a nuclear power station, the people that live around that power station or the people that work there might not know that they've caught the disease until many years later when they end up with cancer or die, and the doctor tells them, their families, that they've been exposed to some nuclear chemical that caused their death and caused them lung cancer or lung sufferance, kidney failure, and they died. All right, so all of these can be technological crisis. And a technological crisis can lead onto a financial crisis because then the company can experience lawsuits to get back or pay the penalty for their mistake. So, for example, if somebody works for you and you are a manufacturer handling hazardous materials and there is a failure due to a problem with your technology and people are not aware that they have been exposed to this chemical, and many years later, they die because of it, your company is going to be sued to pay compensation to their families. And you might be taken to the law because your own government might prosecute the company for failing to report exposure to hazardous chemical material and endangering their staff. So the company will face a financial crisis in having to pay out compensation. It will also face a personnel crisis. It will face an organizational crisis because of the reputation. All of these are interlinked and a chain reaction. All right, cybercrime today is one of the largest threats to companies. Cybercrime is a major crisis threat to every company, government, or country around the world. As we move into 2023, all the way into 2032 and beyond, state-sponsored attacks are expected to increase with attacks on critical infrastructure of concern. Computer security experts reckon that between 2022 and 2032, in the next 10 years, we are going to see much more severe cyber attacks where more critical information is stolen, whether it's stolen by another state, another government, or somebody acting on their behalf. They will steal it in order to gain from it. So cyber attacks are one of the biggest dangers of technological crisis for any company, because once that company's database is stolen and cybercrime is committed, money can be stolen, personal information can be stolen, and if your customers find out about it, or if other governments find out that you've been spying on them, it can lead to repercussions. All right, so how do we work on building and improving capabilities? It's a very simple process. Remember, our capabilities have to be built to protect not only the business itself, but all the multidimensional elements of that business, and also the industry that that business is in. We start by identifying the critical competencies. We have to rank those competencies. We have to assess what level of maturity that competency is at. We have to map them out to make sure they're in the right order. And we have to develop a unique capability which makes us better than our competitor. We have to review our strategic plans on a regular basis. What is a competency? Let me talk to you about a competency. For example, if you have the skills to analyze information, you have what we call an analytical skills competency, which is a specialist competency that people are required to have when they do jobs that require analysis. Competency. If you're running a manufacturing plant, you need to make sure that all the people that work at the plant have the skills and competencies in order to use the technology to manufacture in your own plant. So we begin by closely examining the industry and the markets in which the company operates and identify which competencies will be most relevant over the next few years. So identifying competencies is very, very important. The next one is to rank the competencies. Companies must then prioritize and select the specific option or the specific strategy and customer value proposition that they want to prioritize, all right, to ensure that those competencies serve the company's long-term strategic objectives. The next one, before we go on to that, it's important to understand that when you rank the competencies, you have to understand the specific strategy. Not only do you have to look at the company's strategy, you also have to look at what the regulations are and that you don't break the law. You also have to make sure you meet customer needs. So what is the biggest strategy you should focus on? Customer needs and the law. Then you need to focus on corporate business strategy, whether you can actually meet it or deliver it. And you also need to take into account your brand identity. So strategic importance and scoring how the competency will relate to regulatory needs, customer needs, corporate strategy, and how it's going to leave your brand position in the market are very important when you try to rank your competencies. You need to assess your maturity. You need to ask yourself, are we very good at doing this? Should we focus on this or should we try to improve on it? This is core in actually being able to actually cater for capabilities, whether it's from financial capability, all right, people capability, organizational capability. It is very important that you assess your competency maturity in each of those areas, because remember, crisis can become multidimensional. And you need to map out those competencies. You need to decide which ones are more important and which order you need to structure them. For instance, the process can prevent investment in less strategically important areas that fall at the bottom of the map. So you need to say to yourself, what areas do I need to focus on and spend money on? And what areas can I not spend money on in order to deal with the crisis and move forward? You need to make sure that you have a winning edge over your competitors. You need to develop something that you're very good on or very good at, so you have a winning edge over your competitors. Let's consider a very quick example: a global manufacturer of earth-moving machinery for construction and mining. This company had been a market leader for decades, but faced price competition from a Chinese manufacturer who was selling the same equipment at a lower price. To compete, the company developed new capabilities to transform itself from not only an equipment manufacturer to a provider of industry solutions. The company moved beyond just selling the equipment. It started helping their mining customers configure their work sites so as to the machinery can become more productive, and they didn't have to spend so much money buying so much machinery, which made it more cost effective. This is an example of how you can be unique and overcome your competition. All right, so to make strategic move, the organization had to define its competency. It had to look at its Chinese competition and find a way to be better than its Chinese competition. It used partnerships to acquire competencies it didn't have. It installed GPS in its trucks and machines to make them more efficient and save the customer having to buy additional trucks and machines, because they now had GPS and they had the work site planned out, and they were able to reduce costs, and that way they could compete with the Chinese competitor who was selling machines at a cheaper price. Companies need to deal with this on a regular basis. On an ongoing basis, they need to look at what their plans are and how they can make sure that their plans are prepared to deal with crisis. All right, what I'd like to do now is take some questions. Let's go and talk to some students and see if you have any questions. Where's my friendly moderator? Ma'am, do we have any questions?
Thank you, Wali Rauda. All right. For all the participants, if you any question, please raise your hands or drop your comment in chat Zoom.
I prefer that they raise their hands and speak to me. Actually, it would be much better. Maybe you could ask them to talk to me. I'd like to meet them, please.
Okay.
Don't be shy, guys. I'm a nice guy. Come on, I need to talk to someone.
I have a question, dear
All right.
Wali.
Could you start by introducing yourself, your name, what you're studying, and ask your question?
I'm a
Go ahead.
student. Actually, I will present a presentation after you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Who they paid the money this Fargo? You said they paid 3 billion penalty, right?
they paid penalties. I believe the penalties, 3 billion, were U.S. federal government penalties and penalties to some
They didn't pay
regulators.
the
Yes, they
customer,
did.
but they paid the government.
Yeah, no, in actual fact, if you want to go into the case specifically, they paid billions of dollars in penalties to the corporate regulator in the United States and to the financial institution regulator in the United States. It was a fairly substantial fine. But unfortunately, the damage that Wells Fargo caused was much more than $3 billion. But at least they were held accountable. Whether that accountability was severe enough or not, many of us would argue it wasn't, and it should have been much higher. But unfortunately, that's the way it went. You know, $3 billion was nothing for Wells Fargo. It was nothing at all.
Oh, that means that they earned a lot of money.
Well, you know, if you look into and read about the Wells Fargo case, a lot of us would say that they walked away with probably 10 or 12 billion dollars. People pocketed money, but was 3 billion enough? A lot of people would say no. But according to the federal regulators in the United States, they say that the fine or the compensation or the damages were reasonable. But as you know, in the United States, it's all politics. It's all goes back
I
to
think they
who
have
was.
a Bitcoin case now in the United States. This guy, he did lots of wrong things in the United States. This Bitcoin case now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, cyber crime, financial crime in the United States is much more common. In actual fact, it's much more common than in countries like Singapore, Indonesia, and those. Except if money that was ciphered, I think that would be even that is not as big as Wells Fargo in the United States. And you know, whether they'll ever recover the money from Malaysia, who knows? But you know, let's go on. Let's look at Russia now. As you know, as a result of Russia and Ukraine, Russian billionaires, Russian, you know, multi-billionaires, their assets have been frozen worldwide. There's yachts worth hundreds of billions of dollars and jumbo jets. Who knows whether they'll ever be able to get that back? Who are they going to go to? They cannot sue the governments that foreclosed. They cannot go and steal the aircraft from where it's been locked down. The current Russian president is not going to give it back to them. So, you know, who knows? It's an oligarch. You know, these Russian tycoons are oligarchs. You know, these guys are multi-billionaires, and these guys have been hurt. They have been crippled. They have actually been almost killed, financially crippled. All their money has been frozen. Their aircrafts have been frozen. They can do nothing. All they can survive on is what they have in the safe at home. So if we talk about
They brought
size
some
or
money
dimension,
to Turkey.
Yeah.
They brought a lot of black money to Turkey now.
absolutely, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. You know, there's a lot of them living in Dubai and other countries, and people are asking if all their assets have been frozen and they're truly suffering a crisis, where are they getting this money from? And, you know, again, it's me or you couldn't answer that question. I mean, it's going to take a while for that question to be answered. Are they really in crisis? Or is the Russian government still feeding them money to keep them quiet? I don't know. I really don't know. But, you know, the biggest tragedy is that these crises, due to crime or dishonesty, whether at high level or at low level, they have a chain reaction and impact. Let's look at what the Russia's decision to go to war has done to the people of Russia. They have a zero economy. They have no money in the banks. They can't send money overseas. There's no food in the supermarkets. People are becoming unemployed. Russians are trying to flee overseas all over the world.
Transport countries like Turkey, for example.
Yes.
Now they bring the black money to Turkey, and they use the Turkey.
Yes, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I have a colleague.
I mean, they found transit countries like Turkey.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
I know the oligarchs. I think they will not be affected very much. Some of them they already killed.
Yeah.
But
you know, the funny thing is the people who really suffer the chain effect of this multidimensional crisis is not only these oligarchs, it's the poor people of Russia who are now starving.
Yeah, they will affect deeply, very
Absolutely.
deeply.
And the fact that Russia
the-
is suffered economically, so have other countries around the world who used to trade with Russia. Except for China, the world is suffering. And, you know,
But
Russia
Turkey
would...
too. Turkey, they get a lot of benefits from the
Absolutely.
Russia.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you.
I mean, the Russia is good opportunity for Turkey because lots of oligarchs, they brought their money now to Turkey.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And you know, but listen, it's I think what we're trying to emphasize here is that improving resource to deal with capability to handle crisis is truly a multidimensional aspect, because you just raised three very good examples, and I thank you for that, Mr. Imran. That the fact is that simply because of the behavior of the Russian government, the people of Russia are now suffering on a multidimensional phase. Industry, companies from all over the world have ceased trading in Russia. Let's look at Wells Fargo. People lost their homes. It was a multidimensional chain reaction. Look at Malaysia. People in Malaysia are starving. 1,000 Singapore dollars is only 330 Malaysian ringgit. How can a family of mother, father, and 3 children live on 330 ringgit? It's not even 200 US dollars. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's a multi-dimensional effect. But thank you for joining me today, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe they can ask questions from student side.
I have time for 2 more questions, 3 more questions. Please introduce yourself. To my Ibn Sina, do we have any more questions, ma'am? No?
Is there one question from Juliana Sari?
Yes, go ahead.
The importance of crisis management for a company. Why is there a need for crisis management in every organization or company?
Well, crisis management needs to be there because COVID-19 wasn't planned. And if companies can't react to COVID-19, they fail, they fold. Let's ask ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, during COVID-19, if people like Amazon did not provide e-commerce platforms, Amazon would not be the richest e-commerce platform in the world. So Amazon solved the problem for the world because Amazon was able to deliver groceries to your home. People couldn't go out and shop. So, you know, let's look at it. Let's look at it realistically. Brick and mortar department stores, airlines have basically come to a ground. People couldn't fly. Airports were closed. Aircraft were grounded. People were parking A380s in the deserts of South Australia, in the deserts of Western Australia, and covering them with big plastic sheets because the engines were switched off for 2 years. Why? It's because no airline around the world had ever thought of how can they fly planes if there was a disease like COVID that killed millions of people around the world. You know, whether you plan for crisis or whether you plan for continuity in your business, you need to keep looking at your business and how to keep your business competitive. It's not only making profit, but you need to take into account what happens if COVID-19 comes back next year. What happens if one day there's no electricity around the world? How will you run your business? How will you feed your family if you don't earn an income? As I said, crisis can happen. And it usually happens without prior notice. So it's like today, my dear friend here, Miss Ibn Sina, is already thinking of what she's going to have for dinner tonight, because she knows if she doesn't eat dinner, tomorrow she won't have the energy. And if tonight, if she doesn't go home and put on her makeup, she will not look pretty for her parents, husband or boyfriend. Okay, so it's something she thinks about. It's something she plans day to day. If she doesn't eat tonight, she'll be hungry. It's a crisis. She doesn't plan not to eat. She plans to go home and eat. It's the same as a business, ladies and gentlemen. Business not needs to deal with the immediate problems today, but you need to plan for what can happen if we face a crisis like we did today. And this is a simple reaction. I hope I've answered the question. All right. Okay. ladies and gentlemen, listen, it's my pleasure to have been here today. If any of you have any additional questions, please contact the moderator or the organizer, and they will put you in touch with me. It would be my honor to answer any of your questions. I'm an educator. I get motivated by questions.
Okay, thank you, Wali. Thank you.
All right. So
This is,
from,
this is I'm very appreciate, because the question is from keynote speaker from Turkey, that's why I'm very appreciate. Imran, how are you?
Henry, I hope you are fine too.
Yes,
thank you.
yes, yeah, that's right. Thank you very much for your help for the question for keynote speaker from Australia.
Thank you so much,
that's why
sir.
I'm very happy, Sure.
Thank you very much. It's been my honor to be your guest today, and I look forward to appearing again for Ibu Sina University. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, everybody. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
So after that, Rhoda, so after that is the second one for keynote speaker from Turkey. So please, you can invite, talk to him.
Up next, keynote speaker is come from Turkey. Associate Professor Dr. Imran Aslan, is in Health Management Department, Binol University. The education he started from 2009 until 2014. PhD student at the Business Administration Department or Numerical Methods Field in Atatürk University, Turkey. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Imran Aslan. Dr. Imran Aslan, time is yours.
Can you see my screen now? I shared it already.
See.
Yes, can please.
Okay, thank you very much. I try to see students, but I cannot see the students.
Yes, this is a different Aslan. Before your keynote speaker in the magister, our magister management now is from our degree management. So please, you talk slowly, not very fast, So I hope for all in our student is very, very understand. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Henry. I will mention the developing strategies during the crisis times and what should we do to deal with crisis. So the role of human capital, knowledge management, and digital transformation through effective strategic leadership. And then I will explain these terms, and then later I will give some examples how some firms they dealt with crisis, how they developed the strategies. So already they give me some information about me. Okay. So the economical instabilities. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Economic instabilities. That means they will bring change to the market, and the markets they are dynamics, as dear Wali mentioned about the personal crisis, the financial crisis, technological crisis, the other kind of crisis. That the crisis will happen, and then their name can be changed. It can be like COVID, it can be financial, it can be personal, but the crisis will happen, and the things is that we should be prepared for this kind of the crisis. And when we think about the future crisis, that we know that the firms and the market should prepare is the climate change, because the climate change is a big problem now in the global ranking. And as you know, the lots of things they depend on the climate, the agriculture, the tourism, and now I live in the Bengal city. Normally we have lots of snows, and we need snow for the water and for the agriculture. But now we have a late winter now, because normally there should be winter 2 months ago. But now today we have snow. So one of the big expected crises related to the climate change, and the COVID is already one crisis, and the things that the demand from the customer side will decrease because the governments, they have lots of debts, and the production decreased, and the channels of the supply chain, they changed, and sometimes, as I told you, the things related to this COVID and climate change would affect the customer behaviors, and the things that we have now a different way of life because the technology is more used, and for that one the policies should be developed how to handle this kind of new customer styles. I will give you some examples, some successful example for that one about these policies. And another problem is the unemployment, because the world population is increasing, and the COVID, lots of people, they lose their job, and because of many firms, they went bankruptcy, and this crisis are more severe in the countries like in the Turkey, and that means the people who has the money, they can use this money, and they can that means they can increase their money, because as you the Amazon and some firms, and the banks, they increase their profit, while some people, they lose their money during this crisis and the COVID times because they went bankruptcy. That means the inequalities will increase. The rich can be richer and the poor can be poorer. And one of the most important things is small and medium-sized enterprises, because they have a very important position in the systems of the production, almost in all countries, and about 90% of the maybe more than 90% of the production is coming from this kind of firms. And when they have problems, and when their financial positions, or when they have a crisis, that means that lots of people will be unemployed. And sometimes these kind of firms, they need workers because they cannot find the workers. Mainly they depend on the human work, physical works, and then in this time they also can have some personal or worker crisis, and the political conflicts, as Dirvali mentioned about the hostile nation like Russia and Ukraine, and now the whole Europe and the many countries, they have problems because of these political conflicts, war between Russia and Ukraine. And because the Western countries like Europe, they support the Ukraine, and Russia, in one side, they get hidden support from China, and little support from the Turkey and some other nations. So the lots of resources now they have to spend on these conflicts, and now the other conflicts like in the Peru, or still inside Syria, in Iraq, now in Iran. And this crisis affect the economy of the nations, like the countries, neighbor countries, Turkey. But as I mentioned, that the crises are bad, but they have also some hidden opportunities. So the crisis, that should be if they have enough capabilities and they can develop strategies, that means they can get new opportunities. As I mentioned, now in Turkey, lots of Russian investment came to Turkey because their things, their money and their property have been frozen in these Western countries, and they were afraid. And Turkey, they opened the door to them, and then lots of money, they come to Turkey to be as a fresh money for the market, because now we have already the COVID problem, and this create an opportunity for the Turkey. So the policies should be developed. The crises are bad, but the things that the firms and the countries and the people should prepare themselves for the crisis, and they short term and long term. And in this situation, so which kind of strategies could be developed? Producing cheaper, you need better coordination, higher productivity, lower costs. So the strategy should be developed to be prepared for this kind of crisis. And for that one, the human capital, social capital, skills, knowledge, become important for the organization and the firm for the firms, because you need them to fight with the crisis. The crisis will come, but how to overcome the crisis? So in this situation, the human capital, I mean the workers, their knowledge and skills are important in the time of the crisis. Their know-how, ideas, their health are important for the firms and because they bring the economic value to the firms, and with their ideas, with their skills, they are become the company critical resources, capabilities, and their competencies of the firm. And in this situation, your human capital, are they ready to face the crisis? Because do they need the education? They have enough skills to fight or to overcome or to improve the profit of the firms, and maybe they will also get benefit from that one. So the investment for the human capital is necessary in this situation for the firms, like in the COVID times, because many people they couldn't use the technology very well. And then after they get proper education, they could use these tools in my university, especially the old ones. And the role of strategic leadership and knowledge management is important, because they are also the capabilities of the firms to overcome this kind of the crisis. One important thing is that the leadership and the CEO and the other member of the leadership are they show the way how to overcome the crisis. And if they have a very good management, that in this situation they can come the crisis better, and they can bring the competitive advantages. I mean, if you have a good human capital, if you have a very good strategic leadership, then that becomes a competitive advantage. And the thing is that this your competitive advantages, it can be a production process, it can be human resources, shouldn't be duplicated. If the competitor, they cannot make a better or superior product or something better than you, then it become your core competence. That means it's special to you, and from that one, they can get the advantage of that product and service. I can give you one example from my city. One guy opened one special restaurant, and he brought a very good chef to make the kebab with different style. And after 1 year, the other restaurants that existed before that restaurant, they closed, because he offered a better taste to the customers. That means he has a core competence, and he get the advantages of that competence. And when it is difficult to copy, I mean, if you have that one is special to that, then that means this is continual improvement, because you have more profit, you will have more customers. That means you can improve, and then later it can be a sustainable competitive advantage if it can create value for the firm or for the organization. And in this situation, it can be long term. And in this case, also knowledge is important, how to manage the knowledge, because the knowledge is a strategic resource for many firms to improve the organization performance. And the knowledge management is in the development of knowledge intense economies is a vital component of the digital that should be supported by the digital transformation. And the knowledge management almost include everything, developing, structuring, organizing, retrieving, sharing, assessing, and organization. They are assets for the firms, and that is they are know-how that increase the profit of the market. And then that means they are intangible assets of the firms. So the knowledge management is important for the firms to deal with the crisis time. And this knowledge, they should have this knowledge on time, at appropriate time. because when the people don't know what they will do, then they have panic, and this panic they can do more things wrong. But if there is enough knowledge, like, because now we have a social media, we have lots of source of information, and lots of things they try to affect the people and the customers and the employees by this information. But have the proper knowledge, the right knowledge is important, because I also always follow that on YouTube, that they give lots of information about the investments, or this about the Bitcoin and this kind of things. But I can say lots of them, they are manipulative. I mean, they are not appropriate information, just they try to affect the people, and then many people, they may lose their money. And in this situation, the same for the firms. They should give proper information to their customers and their employees, and then this proper right information can transform the organization. And when this organization, they can be a learning organization, and when the organization can develop themselves, because the things are dynamic, the crisis will come, the things will change. We living in a dynamic world, and we need more information. We need to get new information, and we should improve our decision. And with this new information and with this kind of things, we can deal with situations like the COVID. We had a panic, as I told you. Some countries, maybe it's a very global, multidimensional crisis, but some firms, they get a lot of benefits, like banking, online shopping, and some firms from the healthcare and the digital platforms like gaming, and lots of it was an opportunity for them by doing the right things. And the knowledge management process, that means having the information and being willing to put that knowledge into use, having the capacity. I mean, having enough technology, having good people, having people understand and can use this knowledge, and to be intelligent to recognize how to put this knowledge into use. Because you can have knowledge, but when you are late, then you will miss lots of opportunities. As I showed you, sometimes if you follow the markets and the cases like stock markets or this currency exchange, sometimes the people, they have lots of chance to get. And if you have the right knowledge, then you can make a better decision. So the knowledge creation is an organization ability to generate new and beneficial ideas and solutions for a variety of activities. So for the goods, for technology, for the management, and this knowledge is mainly generated through teamwork and experience. Sometimes suppliers, customers, research institutions can be a source of the information. There's a lot of firms, they provide information about the customers to the firms. And knowledge producing can be a measure outcome of human capital management methods. So that's and this knowledge can be should be stored and then should be shared when necessary. And this knowledge should be updated. I mean, the firms and the other people, they should update this information, because after a while, as things change quickly during the COVID time, sometimes they say then the things change. So the obsolete information should be changed with new information, then to increase. And then if they have some things like lesson learned, they should analyze their mistakes, they should analyze their experience, and they should increase their know-how. And with this kind of things, the firm can prepare its dynamic capabilities against the crisis, have to react to the crisis. In the case of like one management crisis, if the firm is quick, if they have experience, they can mitigate the crisis. But when they do nothing, or when they are not prepared for the crisis, then the crisis can affect them more deeply. And this is the same for the firms or for the people. They should learn from the lessons, like the COVID. As we know, the COVID had brought lots of damage to the humanity, but we learned lots of things from the COVID, and maybe we will be more prepared for the next crisis. similar to the COVID. And the social capital is defined as activities, relationship between individuals where trust, shared understanding, and shared values and behaviors that bind members together, and they make cooperation. That means there should be a cooperation between the people that work in an organization, in a firm, or in a university, or in a hospital, because they are the resources, and they should have a connection with external ties to complete the task and produce value for the customer and shareholders. That means we should follow the customers also, what they need, what is change, how can change, we change the internal resources. And one, as I told you, the strategic leaders are very important to in this situation, to bind internal and external resources together and to exchange information between them, that they have a proper information, and they know what the customer wants, and they prepare the inside the firms from inside for the customers. So effective leaders develop social capital, I mean the communication, and which will increase will be favorable for the firm. And leadership would assist people to learn how to relate to others. So the coordination, making commitments, developing the networks among the workers, maybe with the customers. And when they increase the social capital, it may increase the performance of individuals, also will increase the coordination, and it will strengthen the social network within the firm and within outside. That means there will be more connection, and organization can develop social capital by building trust through transparency. So the leader in the firms are important because they should be transparent. When they hide something, or as the Dr. Wali said, that they follow the employees. They store their information or their things, private information. That means it will affect the firm. I mean, in the long term, it affects its fame. So there should be a transparency for the leadership, and the employees should be a part of this leadership. I mean, they shouldn't stay outside, and there should be meetings, and the employees should be recognized. They should be rewarded if they have a success, and the employees should be supported. There should be a connection between the leadership and the employees. I mean, just they shouldn't order. They should be a part of their life. I mean, they should know what is the employee, what they need. In the crisis time, okay, the leader, if many effective leaders really they manage their firms really good, because they provide, they make a very effective communication, social capital with the firms. And sometimes their workers, they need to work from the home, but even they increase the performance of the firms. And the leadership is they have a vision. They should have a vision and objectives, because it's very important that the world is changing. And when they have a vision, that they know there can be crises, but if they are ready for the crisis, they can motivate, they can heat the organization. Otherwise, the organization can fail. And because the loss of volatile, now the market, business environment, they are very volatile, and things change quickly. When the leadership, effective leadership is ready for this kind of change in the business and how to deal with the uncertainty, then the crisis can be managed more effectively. So they should have the ability to understand the context and the situation. So maybe they build alliance, alignment, balances of interest, major stakeholders, and they take strategic direction, and they make social networks and other kind of things. This is what is required from the strategic leadership, and based on resource-based view and dynamic capability-based approach. strategic leadership is the ability of the leader to be prepared for every possible future challenge. So having the capability and power to manage the organization, critical resource, this can be also humans, to bring sustainable competitive advantages in the marketplace. So they should have a vision, long-term vision, and then improve the firm. And the firm strategic leadership can become a source of the competitive. If you have very good leadership, they can manage the firm very good. They can prepare. They are ready for the change, and then it brings a competitive advantages for the firm. So these resources of the firms, they can be used cleverly, and it become a capability or competency for the firm. So the effective having a very good leadership and management of the organization during the crisis time is very important, because they are in the top who manage the whole process together with employees. And when the leadership can take the advantage of their strong sides, and then they can get a competitive advantages. So the knowledge management also is very important. And what is expected from this leadership, they make a delegation, because many leaders, they try to do every kind of works by themselves, like in the politicians, but sometimes they are not enough. They cannot see everything in the firm. And when you don't delegate, when you don't have a qualified workers, employees, and transparency, you cannot manage the whole things. When we think one university, one rector cannot manage the whole activities of the university, they should have a very good team supporting them during this crisis time. So Mahdi Omar, they made a research. So they how to deal with the crisis times, as you see, that the strategic leadership is very important, because they develop the human capital and social capital. I mean the things. And the knowledge generation is very important. Learning, because now we are living in the digital life, and lots of information we have, but we don't know which information is really valuable, which information is right, and which direction to follow. So the things we should have this knowledge, useful knowledge. And when we have this enough resources, capabilities, competence, and core competence, then the firms can get sustainable competitive advantages. That means the crisis, they can handle the crisis, because they prepared themselves. They don't sit and wait what will happen during the COVID. Even during the COVID, they will search for the opportunities. If they have a capabilities, if they have a resource, maybe they can do other kind of works, or they may do go other branch of the industry in these cases. So the firm's dynamic, the dynamic capabilities is important in this situation. The firms, they should respond. The firm ability to integrate, build, reconfigure internal and external competencies to address rapidly changing environment. Like the crisis, then they can handle this environment which is changing quickly. And these dynamical capabilities are very important for the small and medium-sized enterprises. And in that situation, there's some research that digitalization is important for this kind of firms, that they can have dynamic capabilities, and they can respond to public crisis with this digitalization, and improve their dynamic capabilities. So the dynamic capabilities of the firms: sensing the crisis, sizing the opportunities, and configuring resources to cope with the crisis. So there would be crisis. It can be, their name can be changed, but if they can sense this crisis and can get new opportunities from this crisis, that means they can deal with this crisis. That means they follow the environment, customer, they needs, competitor, what the competitor do, and the developments of technology. So this is the sensing abilities of the firm. Learning, they should create new knowledge based information from this sensing capability. I mean, this necessary knowledge and knowledge process is important, and integrating capability to refers integrating new resources with existing resources. So the knowledge resource different departments and coordinating. So now the self-service technology and human staff appropriate tasks and organizing these staffs in this kind of new change. So it's dynamic capabilities of that one. As we know, the major challenge, the environment change, and then making rational decisions sometimes is they should make quickly because they don't know, they don't have enough time. That in this situation, if they have good dynamic capabilities, they can be prepared well. And sometimes, as you saw, dynamic capabilities they can give new business opportunities. As I saw, online business increased, even face to face. The people don't go to the market, but after the COVID time, lots of business they changed their business to online. And another one, that unmanned delivery, that the plant already is not very developed, but during the COVID, that the people they do contact free deliveries was necessary, and some firms they try to make unmanned delivery to by using this intelligent distribution and to stay in the business. So as I said, this digital technologies for the crisis time is important, and there are lots of social, big data, cloud computing, you have already maybe heard, and artificial intelligence that can be used. And many firms they use these technologies, digital technologies, like shortening time to require to launch new products because of these blockchain technologies, because the people they cannot copy this kind of and go to in the system of the firms, and then with low cost they can make better designs in the shorter time. And then this digital transformation will change the firms in the crisis time, and they make them more competitive, and they make them more resilient and will increase the dynamic capabilities of the firms. And so the valuable information, as I told you now, in the we have lots of information, like when you search something in the Go, lots of information, but which useful information is needed, and how to prepare for this with this useful information to the change is another important thing. And so the firms should get these new opportunities as already done in online education, online working, and contact-free deliveries. So they have opportunities supported by these kind of things, the digital technologies. And another thing, that high volume data. So another work opportunities that the firms and consultancy firms they try to make more useful data because of lots of information, but how to make the helpful, necessary data. You can have lots of consumer information, but what is necessary for you, the customer you want, and their information important. That means having too much data is not very important. Having useful information for the firms is important, and the firms, there are some firms and lots of that they're open to for this kind of things. So as I told you, in the Turkey, probably in your countries also you have this kind of service system. The people, when they don't go outside, they give the orders from the home, and because during the COVID times, even after COVID, people they don't want to go outside and buy something and come to home because it is far. So now they opened one firm, Getir, these groceries and every kind of things they can bring to the home of people, and with very reasonable price, sometimes free, they bring this kind of things. So that with this kind of new service style, many people they improve their sales, they increase their sales, because with the one motorbike, and you order everything from this web page, and they bring you whatever you want, and the prices also is reasonable. I mean, not very expensive things. And this Getir, they get lots of the profit during the COVID times. And what happened after, when many competitors, they saw that this Gator they get the market, they also opened similar things. It becomes in shorter time, because when they see this kind of new business models, because already existed actually in some countries, like they brought pizza or other kind of things to the customers, but to bring the groceries and everything was not expected. And you can see the list of everything, like things for pet shop, for cosmetic, for grocery, fish. You can order everything, and then they will collect and they will bring you, and then they will get some money maybe from the seller. Maybe they get some if they can make a low purchasing from the customer, and it's a very huge business opportunity during the COVID time. So sizing the opportunities is important. I mean, digitalization is a part of our life. If the firms, they can sense and sizing these opportunities as they did in Getir, they can respond to crisis time, because in short, and they need to make long-term strategies for this kind of things, and they should update, make a strategic change, and prepare their resources, educate their resources, and then their performance can be increased, because when they have revenue and they have improved their performance, that means they do something right. And as it happened in the Gator, they get lots of profit in short time. In the months, they employed lots of workers, and they get lots of orders, and they earn the money. As I said, they are still in the market. Maybe they are not the only one. They have competitors now, but still Gator is the famous one for this kind of service. So this kind of things, I mean, to dealing with the crisis and improving the economy, entrepreneurial ecosystem is very important, because many people, many students now at my university also, they think when they graduate they should be employed, but it's not real. They have a very hard competition now, because everybody cannot find in the market, and some of them are very qualified, some of not. So many actually, they should be supported to open business. And in this kind of things, I mean, especially the graduate ones, because after they graduated, they need to find a job, because this is expectation from their family. So they can open their business, or they can go work for governments, or they do something. But the entrepreneurial, if the students, they are educated, or if the people in the community, they are creative to handle the problems and get the opportunities, is important in this kind of ecosystem. And so the same thing is for the organizations, is also important, because I said the human capital is a dynamic capability, and they need to be flexible, resilient, react quickly, and in this situation they can improve the firms, and there should be a supportive environment, as I said, from the management and from the governments. So there should be innovative ventures supports from this environment, and there should be activities, economic activities, policies, investment, and the culture should be developed. Social network should be established, and universities are also important in this kind of things, because they have connection with the outside and with the students also, and with many firms, and then they can give support them. And the government can be the key in this situation, because the long-term resilience is important for the firms and for the governments, and they should prepare themselves for this economical growth, and to deal with the crisis. As I told you, now in Europe, in the Turkey, and probably in Indonesia also, the business model, how to make a business model, have to be profit business models. They should be supported, should be a part of the education, or they should be open hotspots like they did in the Silicon Valley and other, that they can bring the entrepreneur people together, and they get the financial support, or maybe they need to be educated. In this kind of things is important to, and then this one should be supported by entrepreneurship education that I said all the universities they give this kind of the classes, and they should give consultancy to the students after graduation. So the entrepreneurship ecosystem is important because the government, leadership of the firms and the countries and the market, the human capital, that they need finance, culture, how their cultures react, this kind of things, infrastructure, and if the universities or the cities or if the countries they have this entrepreneurship ecosystem, they can make new business opportunities, and is also a dynamic, as I told you, a dynamic capability for the firms, because the firms sometimes they need to open new business branches. As I told you, they did indicator. They can use their technologies and open another business style or business branch. And when they have this entrepreneurship ecosystem, it will be beneficial. And innovative wave of it is very important, because the success is depend on innovation, and this have a positive influence on the firm performances. And the product innovation is defined as the introduction of improved goods or service in order to increase the sales and improve customers the service. So from this side, process innovation also making new methods of production or making new kind of service, improving the quality, improving the service is a part of the innovation. And when the training can be done, the training should be given to improve the innovation and entrepreneurial success of the human resource. It can be a part of the firms or for the students. So the university is important for this kind of things. And as I said, the parents they should support their children after graduation, because of maybe they should support them to open a business. Now in Turkey, many students when they graduate they want to work in the government, but many they don't get enough support, maybe from the family or maybe from surrounding to open the business. But the government cannot employ all the students, and sometimes if there are lots of opportunities when they open the new business, maybe they will improve they bring benefit to the countries. And so the things is in the countries during for in general what is necessary for the growth, for the economical improvement. We need innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem, and for this kind of things, like we opened actually one regional economic center in Bingo to attract the more entrepreneurial people and to open new firms or this kind of things. So this kind of things will be beneficial for this kind of things. And this is the innovative thinking should be developed for the human capital and for the students. So they have to improve the students to be prepared for they have enough skills. So they should be inventing, observing, questioning, making innovations, and then they should create value, be creative, open-minded, should take the risk, learning. They should have enough motivation, because staying at home will bring nothing. They should go outside or should look around to find to improve their life, maybe to improve the business, to find a job or improve themselves. They have should passion, curiosity, challenge, should have a reverse system. So what I said that especially for the students that I want to add here, that as I'm also am a university teacher, and I see that the time management of students is not very effective. That lots of them they don't know how to use the time, because lots of sometimes they use the technology, sometimes they don't sleep very well. So for everybody, I think what is important to have an effective time management, and because you have private life, maybe you are a student, maybe you are a worker. So and stress management, as lots of uncertainty, panic during this crisis times happen. So we should have a proper stress management, how to deal with this crisis. So we should have enough rest, doing sport, have enough food, meditation, this kind of things to manage the stress, to cope with this kind of challenges. will help students and will decrease their stress. And students, their study skills is very important. How to read the books, take notes in the class, because some of my students, they don't take the notes, but after it comes to the exam, they forget that I wrote something that could be a question for the exam, or maybe something important for their life. So that they should know how to take the notes, and should have a textbook for this kind of things, or they should have effective study skills. Money is very important. That I see many people they don't know how to manage the money, because during the COVID, lots of problem, and the people who has the money, they have less stress. But when they don't have money, when they lose their job, and then can be a big problem, because they need to take debts, and if they do too much spending, in the long term, it can be very big problem for everybody. So assertive skills are important, that speak up yourself in an assertive manner, that is not aggressive or passively allowing others to take advantage of. So assertive skills are helpful for the communication and everything is, and for the conflict resolution, that these skills should be developed. And self-care, as I told, the health is very important, because the crisis, we cannot stay under too much stress. We cannot have too much panic, and we should think about our physical health and normal physical needs and health. Otherwise, when our health has a problems, then the whole life will be affected. As I did some researches, that this kind of mental problems is a big problem during this crisis time, and how to handle this crisis time. Your mental health and normal health, physical health should be good, and it should be improved. And keeping safe and avoiding risky behaviors, as I said, beside well-being, that many people should make smart decisions. That means low risk choice. As I see some of my students, and some people also, they earn good money, but they lose lots of money in this kind of this Bitcoin. I mean, I say the general things, and they search easy way of earning the money. I mean, they give lots of their money, that they will earn lots of. They give more money. I mean, lots of money they will give them, and they give their money to this kind of investment, like on the online platforms, or the people, they want money, but they say that we will give you lots of money, like 1 month, 2 months, and then this kind of risky things happens, because many people, they lose their money. They trust this kind of people, and their money gone already. So in these situations, seeking assistance when needed. If you need some help, it can be from the boss, it can be from a friend or family. In this kind of things, the assistance seeking is very important, and respecting the rules and policies, what is expected from the college students, and displaying honesty, integrity, obeying the risk, and for the personal growth is important. What's research done for the university, especially for the business administration departments and management departments, that the students should have a complex solving skills, critical thinking, creativity. They can manage, have a coordination, have a high emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, proper service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. I mean, can adapt the information and can analyze the surrounding and making proper decisions. That is what is necessary for the in the education, also for the workers and for every kind of people, that in these crisis times, it will help them to overcome these kind of situations. So the people, they should have problem solving capabilities. They should care themselves. They should work with themselves and with other people, and they have a technological capabilities. So if the people, they have this kind of skills from the individual side, they can handle the crisis in a better manner. I mean, maybe they will lose money, or maybe they will earn more money, or maybe they will take the opportunities. But what is think these skills improvement are important. And as you say, the innovation you see, I like this kind of innovation because sometimes people they find very clever ways, and that it can be like that one that a business opportunity for the people. As I say, the digital technology, we should educate our people or styles of living, new world, and the digital transformation is in the middle of this one because everything can be connected together. I mean, with this small tablet, you can get all kind of information about the city, about the people. You can reach everywhere, every kind of things from this small tablet. And this digital transformation means change. Lots of old ways will change, and we should prepare, we should educate, we should improve our competency or skills or forms for this kind of change to deal with the crisis. So when I was a student, the Kipaş holding in Turkey, so they have a crisis, they have a management crisis, and also another crisis was that the China, they start to make chip production, and then they can make more export to the other countries because the barriers of this exportation from China eliminated. And they have the two person from Turkey, they living in the city of east of Turkey. That's Hanefi Öksüz and Gümüşeş. They have a holding they established, and they have a lot 6 main sectors, and they lot of investment. They have firms, and they made investment in cement, paper, energy, education, and they have 10,000 employees. So, and then they have very high tech players. They have lots of sales and profit from their activities, and they are in the ranking of the companies in the Turkey and in the city of Kahramanmaraş. And their core technology was the textile. They were the best in the textile because they started with textile and they grew it, and then they went other fields. But what happened to these firms in 2014 when these two they made this they opened this holding, they grow, then become big. They have problems, and they have a crisis, management crisis, because they are from two families, and these two persons, they were actually good together, but when their children and grandchildren they come into the business, the fight starts, and the things became bad for the firm because these conflicts and fight between these member of families was very bad for the firm. So the firm, we did a project with my university, with my professor for this holding, Kipaş holding, and we tried to find how to overcome their crisis, how to overcome their problems. And what we did, for example, we did a SWOT analysis. So the internal factors of the firms and external factors of the firms we found. So strengths and weakness for for the crisis or for the problems, firms should know their strengths and weakness. And what is traits? So COVID is a trait, but there could be opportunities. So if we can use the weakness, strengths, and know the opportunities and the traits, then we can make a better decision making. So we gathered the information from the firms, and as you see that at the beginning of the project, the organizational structure was like that one. There was two heads, two families, and both of them should be agreed to make a decision because they cannot make a decision, and every family want to take the control of the firm, and their political views were different, and their connection with the governments were different, and this organization didn't work. So this was the beginning of the project. So we learned their strengths, weakness, opportunities, and traits. So in this situation, this one should be traits. So I wrote traits. This one. So as you see, we have an opportunity to be a part of European Union, but the increasing customer expectations, improvement in competitors, low labor, like was China and India, they come because they start to make cheap exportation, and the quotas were were removed. So that is the weakness of the firms. So we made the analysis for the firm, and in these cases we created strategies. In this project, I was a researcher, and this part was we developed for the firms. And I don't want to give in details, but what we did, we changed the organization structure of the holdings, and we make a new structure for them, more professional, and made the chairman of the board. And after that one, the firms after 2015, they make reorganizations and they improve themselves. So this is one project that we did in reality, how to be handle the problems, the crisis. I mean, you need to change. And what we see during these projects, that there were lots of grouping among the people. They can be due to the ideology, political grouping, and other kind of the grouping. So for this kind of things, we need to make the change. And the change, when the change could handle this kind of the crisis, that means they can be prepared for this kind of things. And I want to give another one. For example, we said that the how to use technology to handle this kind of things from the tourism industry. You know that they are depend on the also they were very affected deeply during the crisis time. And in one study that the human interaction wasn't desired by the people. So what some people they did, they based self-service technology developed by some hotels to overcome this crisis time during the COVID time. This was a very successful example. And when the people, they have self-service, like digital case, serviceable, self-service kiosks, smart speakers, drones, and this kind of things, they take the attention of the people and they start to get the customers for their hotels. And they adapt this kind of things. As I told you, maybe every kind of hotels, they cannot adapt this kind of technologies, self-service technologies. But this is another strategy how overcome the effect of the crisis. I mean, a successful example, how they make change, how to they make using their sensing capabilities, learning capabilities, coordination, and integrate these capabilities and develop the strategies. So this is more technology intense and contact-free service, and how they satisfy their customer, employees, improve the efficiency, and reduce the cost. So there would be crises, but the crisis can be handled. And this is another successful example. This is from the COVID time, how some hotels, they were successful and can take the attention of the people. The food sector, one of the most important affected during the crisis time, because lots of they have small and medium-sized enterprises, and the food safety problems like related food safety, food quality, food integrity, and not finding the workers was a problem. So how to for this kind of thing, the chain of the supply chain of the food was affected, and they had the problems. So they changed themselves during during the COVID, and they try to develop new strategies how to overcome this pandemic situation. So they increased the hygiene practice, they increased social distancing, they decreased the cost, and then like they developed strategies how to overcome this kind of problem. So one is agility in rapid with low cost. How can be done? They can have information with the other sub-suppliers, better communication with other suppliers, and they use the digital technologies, and they improve their supply chain. In this situation, this is not very expensive. They become more flexible, so they change their distribution channels, delivery they change their outputs and production outputs, and they change the volume in this one with their things. And collaboration, they improve the coordination, they shared more information, they certify their supplier, especially the big firms, they develop their suppliers and to make improve the collaboration, and they improve their human resource, so they train, educate them. and they have to making trainings for their improving their training. I saw that human capital is very important because they are the task force of the firms. They develop it and they redundancy. So they developed a redundancy strategies in this kind of things. So maybe they have low more right like that one. They had more buffer when it's possible, or they improve their backup capacity. As they improve their knowledge, decision making, how they make communication with supplier. So this is one way, another successful example how to deal with the crisis. So this is the cheap ways dealing with the crisis. High cost and low cost is one. Improving communication, information sharing, like designing supply chain, supporting suppliers, improving the cooperation, employee training, have to make the having multiple resources in case they can have they cannot get the supplies from one supplier, they can use another supplier. So they improve their supplier network, resource slugs they developed, and they developed multi-skilled workforce. I mean, and their culture they try to adapt. So this is another successful example how they deal with the crisis time. There will be crisis. So the things that I think from this Hanifi Öksüz said got the most high says. I am the third partner, two partners, as long as one of them doesn't betray the other. So the honesty in the business is very important. Having long-term vision is very important. And if you have this vision, if you are honest, your work will be, you will be successful in the life. This is one of two successful persons. They were two university students from the very poor city, and they become one of the two rich people in the Turkey now. Was a good one, is one good example. So the strategy should be developed as done in 2005 and during the COVID times, and the hotels and how the food sector they dealt with this crisis time are two good examples that how they improve their capabilities, how they improve their human resource, and the entrepreneur ecosystem and managers of these firms, especially I said small medium size, is important because the leadership is very important, and we can not think anything without technology now. We should have a technology and digitalization in the firms, but we should think about the culture, the norms, and the values to people and organization at the same time in this kind of things, ecosystems. And the technology can improve the resilience of the firms, small, medium-sized firms, as happened in the crisis times. And this can be that when necessary, their workers can be educated, and the firms, the people, they should have sustainable development on economic activities, and they need to change. If they change is necessary, they need to change. Otherwise, the things change, and the crisis came, the production method changes, and this aim should be something should be long term. They should have long term vision. Of course, as I told you, the countries are important in this situation. The authorities are important. If you have a very good entrepreneurial ecosystem, good educated people workforce, then the innovation and entrepreneurship can become more quicker, and the added value can bring more advantages to the firms or the country, to the people and the work environment. And we should prepare the people, students, organization, how to make them resilient to the shocks, how to make change, how to educate them, how to create a business ecosystem, how to get the opportunities, how to know the traits, and how to withstand the next storm. Maybe there will be more crises, but if they have this crisis plan, if they have this plan for these bad times, that means they can have less damage. Maybe they will get the opportunities. That's what I can say. This is the if somebody wants, I can give my project that we did in 2005. Because we had the one financial crisis in Turkey in 2001, And then we have another problem that lots of Chinese products they come to Turkey. So this project about these things, and this is one article from this kind of things, and the example of the other articles and how they fight with this crisis, how they improve their capabilities and competencies during this crisis time were explained in these studies. So this is all I can say. Thanks for listening to me. If you have any question, I can answer.
Lanjutkan. All right. Say thank you to Dr. Imran Aslan. Up next, keynote speaker is come from Indonesia. Dr. Henry Herman, Bachelor of Economics, Master of Science. Dr. Henry is the chair of Magister Management Program and also is lecturer of Bachelor of Management in University of Ibn Sina. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Henry Herman. Dr. Henry, time is yours.
Yeah. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes.
And
like-
you?
Yes, I'm fine. So like you beautiful, sure. Oke, terima kasih. Good afternoon for everybody. Ayo jawab, mahasiswa mana nih? Kemana nih? Jangan keep silent saja. Ayo.
Good afternoon, Pak.
Yes, it's good. Yeah. How are you, Imran?
I'm fine, Dr. Herman. If they have any question, I can answer because many people they are interested how to deal with the crisis because they are afraid of the crisis. But I give a method how to overcome the crisis. So we say we shouldn't be afraid of that much to the crisis.
Yes, we talk to students also, but maybe also the worries, or maybe they say how to make the question for you. That's why they just only silent,
Okay.
Okay.
Then after your presentation, I will be happy to answer the questions. As I said, we should be afraid of the crisis. We should be ready for the crisis.
Okay. So how the weather is Turkey now?
Herman, it's now very snowy. Lots of snow. The climate became crazy. So
Yeah.
now outside is full of snow.
Yeah. In here, in Batam Island or Indonesia, such early morning always is running, Yeah, it's also the weather is like the very cool,
Yeah, they unpredictable because as I said, we prepared for the winter for 2 months ago, but now we have a very hard winter now. And what will happen now? The bad side from our side, the slope for farming, they do farming for the climate, according to the climate. When the climate change, the farming products, they are affected. So probably we will not get enough food this year from the farming this year. Many farmers, they will get low return.
Okay, so because this is already many times I invite you to keynote speaker in our webinar. So maybe for the next time I invite you to webinar for Seminar International. You come to here. So not only for
I will be happy.
online only.
I will be happy. I like Indonesia.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's why. Also from Turkey to Batam Island. Also, if you go to there or you want to come to our country, it's not expensive now.
Yeah, I will come, inshallah. I will
Yes.
be happy.
Yes, I try to propose to our university to invite you to coming here.
Yeah, I would be happy to give some face-to-face classes to know your university, to your students, And I know the Batam is very nice because every day I see photos from the Batams. I have friends from the Facebook.
Yes, no worries. Someday I invite you come to here.
Thank you very much. I will be happy. I appreciate.
Okay, so like already, I mean the third time you keynote speaker to Magister Management. For this moment, you keynote speaker from our degree management. You know, that's why. So before I talk, you don't like your face. You very fast talk to them because sometimes it's not all understand when they speak English. You know, that's why I talk you the slowly is more better.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. I try to be slow, maybe sometimes quick, but I try to be slow.
Hi, sir.
Oke, so mahasiswa manajemen silakan ayo bertanya mungkin satu
Hi, sir.
dua ya
My
silakan.
name is Dira. We know. Hello, sir. We know during COVID-19, many companies is closed, and some company is survived. You know. My question is, what the main reason they need close the company in crisis situation in COVID-19? Thank you.
Yeah, the problem is that they were not ready for the crisis. This is the first, and many firms, as I told you, the Gator, I give the example. I know many firms, they did really good job during the crisis because they changed their business styles. So if you have a products, but you cannot sell your products to the customer, but if you change your business to online, because many people they order from online, you know, you want to buy chicken, but you need to go to shop, but the people they want the chicken at home. So Gator, they develop a new business model. You order and then they bring to your home. And Gator, they have a lot of sub-suppliers. They can sell the products of their suppliers. So that means business for them. That means the money. But some firms, unfortunately, they got to help them or waited for the government to help them. In this situation, they couldn't seize the opportunities. They couldn't use their resources effectively because they have employees. They need to pay their salary. But if they don't have enough profit, then big problem, right? So the things is change. Who can change? Who resilient? Who can change, adapt? Then they could be successful. As I said, they were unlucky because nobody expected the COVID. They were not ready. We are not also ready, but now we are ready, right?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Okay, so what about other? So because this is any to around 250 the student to follow for this our webinar international. So maybe the others you have the question. Mungkin yang lainnya ada pertanyaan. Ayo. Yang lainnya student mahasiswa. Others, yang lainnya ada mau bertanya enggak? Okay, so thank you, Imran. So we already try to asking them to about the Q&A, but just for the 1% only. Maybe the others also sometimes maybe he's also don't want to talk to you, but maybe he don't know how to say. Maybe I think that. So very thanks.
They can
much.
speak your language and you can translate maybe later, Dr. Herman.
Oke, so mahasiswa, ayo silahkan bertanya. Dia bilang boleh bahasa Indonesia, nanti saya bahasa Inggriskan, translator. Dio mungkin. Oh, okay. The one question from our moderator, are you okay? Okay, silahkan.
There are many ways to determine work or employee success. According to you, why innovation is one of the things to support this success?
I mean, if we don't become innovative, how can we handle the change? I mean, we should have capabilities. I mean, I see some people and some situation when they have problem, they cannot use their brain, they cannot use their capabilities. Just they wait and they cannot find a solution. But if you have innovative capabilities, can be personal, it can be for the firm. You will find a solution for everything, because you will use your brain. What God give you, what's the best gift of the God is your brain. It can function. It can function better than the computer. And this innovative can change your personal life, can change the world, can change the firm. So innovation, I mean, is just a word, but should be supported with many things: experience, good education, good coordination. Lots of things is the source of the innovation. So if you have these kind of things, I am an educator, no? I know the student style. Some students, they memorize, they just use their brain less, but some students, they are active, they are innovative, they found solution. When I ask the question, they answer better. I get better answer, more creative answer from these innovative people. The same for the firms. If you have a good worker, if you have a problem, they can find a solution. So this is the innovation. And maybe they will find something best one.
Okay, so enough for you. Others?
Nothing.
Nothing. So mungkin yang lain ada yang mau bertanya, mungkin dengan bahasa Indonesia saja tidak apa-apa. Nanti kita transfer ke bahasa Inggris. Okay, Imran, no more. Very
Thank
thanks.
you very much. Thank you for listening me.
Yes, so maybe for the next time, if we have the agenda, so I call you, I invite you anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Oke, baik, silahkan ditutup saja, ya, moderator. Ya, silahkan. Enggak, saya.
Okay, the summary from Webinar International today is there 6 entrepreneurship ecosystem: policy, markets, human capital, support, culture, finance. Is there 3 innovative thinking: motivation, attitudes, and skills. Types of crises. Is there 6 types of crises: financial crisis, personal crisis, organizational crisis, human research crisis, technological crisis, and natural crisis. Okay, thank you. So I return to Master of Ceremony.
Udah, si dia udah sih. Hi Dio, how are you?
Hi, sir. I'm perfectly good. Thank you. How are you?
So I'm fine, of course. That's why. What do you think is our international webinar from management?
I think this will be our new experience in our life, because you know that this is our very first time of Bachelor of Management get event of international webinar. So I think my experience is I can't forget about this international webinar.
Okay, this is also all is your friend, right? You also the last semester. Okay, after that you finish in here. So after finish, maybe you and together with your friend in the one class. So if you want to next webinar international, Magister Management every 6 months we done for the
Let us close our event by saying hamdalah together. 1, 2, 3. Bismillah, alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Thank you very much. See you on the next occasion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you everybody. Goodbye.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kalau udah siap, Waalaikumsalam.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.